Where it says like $17 an hour lunch waive, does that mean they waive their lunch period? What does that mean, lunch waive?
No, it's for the lunch wave of the school. There's 3 lunch waves. Sorry.
They don't start them.
I thought
They
that
do,
meant,
yeah, they may be waiving their lunch too.
well, I thought they meant by contract they got lunch, but they waived that.
Right, and that very well could be. If they want
Waived it, spelled it wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're missing an eye for that one.
Okay. The next one is a listing of our itinerant teachers as well as staff that are paid from various accounts. The way I do salaries, I do it by school, not staff members, so instead of flipping through a bunch of different pages, I just broke out the people that actually travel. And so if you take the first one, Sue Lebowski, she's an administrator that is in all 5 elementary schools. So when I budget for Sue, I would do it as a 0.2 of her 1.0 salary. And so forth, that goes down up until the last page. And then the last page has our non-certified staff. And also included is what expense account it comes from. GB equals general budget. That's our budget, the Board of Ed's budget. So if you see anything different than GB, that means they are grant funded or reimbursed for the ROTC program, military reimbursement.
No, I just was very surprised that, I learned this when I was at East School, that we did not have full-time media people. And heads up for next budget year, I would like to see us look at that. Not this year, but.
Struggle to maintain the staffing levels for that area.
I know. But media specialist, which we used to call a librarian, which is much more than a librarian, is key to any program. So, but we don't need to discuss it.
Okay, the next one was asked a historical staffing level of our paraprofessionals. At budget committee meetings, we looked at how our para numbers have really soared over the past few years. This was actually an interesting exercise because you could tell they have some. In 09-10, we went from 135, dropped in 10-11, and we've been going up since, and we're at 154 as of the date that I did this document.
What year was the rate cuts that we were talking about?
That was in 10-11 with.
So the lowest we've ever gotten is 123.
123, right?
108.
Now, the sheet we were given last week had 162.5. It showed 153.5, but then it added those 9 positions.
Right, but this is, and that's why, this is as of our December roster was 154. Because as of, this is as of December, our December roster. What you were handed out last week was from our sped director, that she literally just hired people that haven't even come through payroll yet. That's the problem with paras. It fluctuates. I mean, we have them here and they'll tell you it fluctuates weekly.
Okay, this was as of March, and this list is as of December.
Right.
But this review was real numbers.
Yeah, the coming and goings. And also, this is the last list that we've also given to our union, our para-union, when we discuss them monthly with
So
them.
the general education or general instruction para category that was given out at budget
Mhm.
is considered a special education para ultimately? Am I understanding correctly? Because there's no line item on here for general.
Yeah, because there's not, in the contract, it's all special ed pairs. But as you can see, it hasn't been like that because we've had career center paras, bilingual, we even had clerical paras on the books labeled as clerical paras in 09, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12.
I guess what's confusing from my standpoint, but I
Mhm.
think probably for the budget committee too. So you have a list that says general instruction, and then you have ones that are special ed, and now they're getting lumped back into special ed. So are they
General
special?
instruction of students that do not require a one-on-one or a one-on-two,
So
but
it's
they
a
still
non-
are special ed.
It's not required with their IEP.
No, it has to be required. Anytime a student receives an hour of para time, constant para time, it all has to be recorded in their PPT. You can't assign para time without it being in the PPT,
Okay.
or in the IEP. It's
Maybe
discussed
I'm
at
asking
the
the wrong
PPT.
way. The list that we received at budget was broken down into mandated paras and non-mandated paras. And my understanding was that anyone who fell into the category of general instruction is not mandated. On this list, if I were reading this list right now, I would see special education and think mandated para. So what I'm asking is, which is it?
The way that I understood it was multiple kids that required a piece. So they lumped multiple kids in a class with
At the high school.
a high school.
So maybe the better way to read it was, there's one-on-one, one-on 2 to 3,
Correct?
and then there's one on more than 3, which is the general instruction para?
There's still special education para because it's, in the IEP, it will say that a student requires para education support during mathematics, but they don't need it during English.
But another kid in the class might need it.
Right, and so that para goes to that math class to serve that child, but then is also written on an hour or 40 minutes for that other child who is getting the support during English.
So a child is a 504, the para would be under special ed, even though 504 is not special ed.
Correct?
Because there's always a written plan that states the support. You don't have a para unless it's in the IEP or the 504 plan.
So we really only have 10 paras that are not special ed, or 7 medias, or 2 nursery, and our 1 security. 8 bilingual.
And most of those, but those are grants too. So
In the media, well, 1 security, so you eliminate that, you have no security.
Right.
But the media, my understanding is because we don't have full-time media, if we eliminate any of them, then there will be no one
No.
in the library.
And the reason why, just so everyone understands, the reason why I use December as the roster is because I had to, when I did it, I wanted to go as a point in time going back. And HR keeps rosters by month, so I just picked December and went December through the next, 09 through 13, 14. My data is an ongoing running roster. I don't have from, you know, what it was 2 months ago, and I have it as today. So that's the reason for that.
What I'm hearing, just to be very clear, is that you cannot cut absent those media, nursery, security, and bilingual.
Excuse me, you have to keep the nursery because that's in the preschool program here at the high school.
Okay,
And
so
you have
let's
to have a
exclude that
certain
as well.
ratio of 1 adult to, I think, 9 children.
So 15, we're looking at 15 people if you want to have empty libraries and everyone speaks English, which is not.
Because they also travel to
Just
different
just
classes.
trying to understand.
Yep.
And the schools on security. Next.
Okay, the next one, actually, no, this is contracted services for 12-13. It was asked what makes up contracted services for student services. And the next one is a year-to-date total for this current year for contracted services. So if you go to 12-13, you can see a full year. So the majority of what we need contracted services for is our evaluations. Those are doctors. Our physical and OT therapy. We use PrEP. Another doctor. The majority of them are the doctors for the evaluations. And last year we had we contracted with 2 companies for Beverly Sear, Lena McDermott. And this year we actually hired Lena on staff for a little bit more of the same price, but working full-time. It was a very good deal. And this year to date, there's no student names on this. It's just doctors.
So which of these, Danielle, would come off based on filling the behaviorist psychologist?
Well, this is 12-13. If we look at 13-14, the next one,
Oh.
that's where we are today. Or excuse me, that's for this year. Our contract for those 2 is, if you flip the page and you see at the end, towards the left, it says EBS, 15 to 20 hours per week at 60 hours a week. That's what's remaining on this contract through the end of the year, and then the one above that 5968 for Center for Social is our other contract.
That's what remains, yes?
Right, so then if, we've spent $88.20 on the EBS so far, so if you just, and we spent 34, roughly, thousand on the other one. Yeah, I mean, it's about 120,000, which is what we reduced our budget by. I think we reduced it by 117. It really is it's an estimate though too. They take the past few years, but the majority of contracted services are evaluations.
I just think it's important to note that we almost always spend more on contracting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, I mean, just for the Center for Social, I mean, that's gonna be $80,000 And it wasn't even for a full year, it's for a half a year. But we can spend less than 80 on a full-time person.
Do other things.
Yeah. Okay, and then the next one is the cost to outplay students versus our district programs for special ed. You asked me to put a price tag on what it would cost to, if we took all of our district special ed programs and we did not have them, what would it cost the district? So just taking what we pay currently for students that would most likely go into these facilities, it would be about $7.8 million. We're paying $1.2 million to have these programs in-house with our staff. So roughly it's a $6.6 million savings by having the 7 programs in-house. Plus 8, yeah, plus pre-K.
But you don't have the cost of that.
This is what it would cost if you sent them all out of district, right?
Yeah.
This is what it costs to keep them all different. So we're saving this money.
We get the pre-K down here.
The 962,000.
If you take D11 back out, what you just got, the in-district cost goes up by that pre-K number we had before of 900 and
962,846.
962,846.
So it's 2,232,846. Yes. 5.6 million. Sure.
So right now, the costs that we have in place that are in this budget is the 1.2 million.
No, that's what we were just correcting. It's $2,232,846.
Right, because that, you just added in the pre-K.
Right.
Because that, so that changes the savings instead of 6.6 to a $5.7 million savings.
And this exercise was just to demonstrate what would it cost if we eliminated these teaching positions and para positions and outplaced these kids.
Correct.
Plus, we wanted, the board wanted to look at, for when they wanted to bring these back in, we wanted to do an evaluation of what the savings actually was by bringing those back.
Shows a good investment.
Services 167.
All right, the last few, the one I'm handing out now, this is what was submitted to me by our directors and principals for additions and/or eliminations from our current budget to what they requested for their 14-15 budget. And on the back side is the breakout of what was added for sports. And then also, I'll pass out you've seen this in years past. This is what it would cost, what each sport cost by student if we were to do a play. And I also added back in what the original request for the middle school sports were on the bottom, so you could see what it actually would cost by sport. And then the second second page of that is strictly pay-for-play numbers that we had talked about in the past. How much a student or a child or a family would have to pay by sport if we took all costs associated.
What is this one, Danielle?
That is what was added back into our athletic budget.
The front side is changes in budget at each school in the current year, and the back is the athletic changes.
This sheet, these were not in last year's budget.
No, those were cut from last year's budget.
They weren't, the money was cut, not the positions.
Right, but we didn't fund them.
Yes.
Correct. It wasn't funded out of the general fund budget.
So when they were added, why weren't they on this sheet that said, here's what we request and here's what we kept in?
I was just giving total, I was just giving.
Well, I don't know who I'm
total
asking
numbers.
that question to, maybe not you, maybe you, maybe Cheryl. Why weren't JV football and freshman football, I'm not against them, but why weren't they on this sheet that
The
said
additions that were-
original requests from principals? Why weren't they on the sheet?
Because that sheet is actual new things.
Well, this is new.
It's not the positions, and that's why, the positions weren't cut. The money was, and we were trying to fundraise more money, we were trying to use, gate receipts in order to fund these positions, so we did not
Yeah.
have to cut. Unfortunately, that didn't come to light, so we needed to add them back in.
I'm not gonna
This
play
school
word,
year.
I'm not gonna go any further than this, but that's sort of playing word games. If the money was cut, the positions weren't there, somebody else decided to fund them, I guess. But
Seek other
to me, my way of thinking, these should have been on this sheet. So at least we could see. If some certain questions weren't asked, we would have never seen this. We didn't know this. That's all my point. Not pointed toward you.
Yeah, well, this was, a presentation was given to the board last year about these positions and how we were hoping to fund them in other means.
Right. But nothing was given this year to the board saying, and we're adding them in, so just now.
Correct.
Okay, that's my point.
Yep.
Well,
Yes, John.
Well, it did come up, and I think it was a budget committee meeting when it came up, that last year we took some extraordinary and one-shot measures to keep the high school program going. Now that those sources of funds have been exhausted or had never materialized in the first place, we now are faced with the choice of either continuing to fund the high school program or cut the middle school program.
I heard that on Monday's budget meeting, but I don't, maybe it came up before then, I don't know.
We had talked about that at earlier meetings too, but that's really what it comes down to is.
Danielle, I would think for a point of clarification, the front of D12, that has additions and eliminations. On the back of that same page, it shows the 97,000 in additional positions. Did we put that on the front side of that page? Because that is an additional.
Just as the total, you mean?
Yeah, it's a $97,000 addition
Right, I
that's going
was-
to high
yep.
school, along with the 42,000 in-school
Right.
coordinator.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying, this is the summary of all of them, and on the back it shows those additional, they're not additional positions, but it's additional funding. Right?
Correct.
I understand that the positions are cut, but it just gives a clearer picture of what is added back. That's,
Put the DAC on the front, under T adjust.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
You did. Let's try and make it sound better. Okay. Any other discussions on this?
Just at the athletics as a whole, we're trying to, as we talked about before, the board and the mayor had alluded to, is trying to bring all the parent groups together. And that's what Mr. McKenna had started discussions last year about, to try to not, we're all fighting for the same dollar, so if we can bring all the parent groups in, and help fund our athletics, as well as using gate receipts that we receive from staff, families coming into our games, concession monies that are sold at the games, all that type of stuff. There's a lot of money out there that we need to try to rein in to help support and fund athletics moving forward.
Nowhere do you show gate receipts on any of these sports teams?
That's under student activities. It's not in our general fund budget. That's one of the items that we're trying to bring in-house. So
We're gonna sit down with the athletic director, the policy committee chair, and try to formulate some way. We were talking with Eleanor as well, the mayor, to come up with a way to stabilize our extracurricular activities, sports, music, drama, and create, to see if we can find a way through advertising or whatever that we can self-fund those so that they don't constantly take the beating every year in budget. I mean, just similar to the Latin program. If you every year say you're gonna cut it, people just aren't gonna bother. You're not gonna take Latin 1 if you have to take Spanish 1 next year. You're not gonna start in a baseball program if you're gonna cut it next year. You're gonna try to find that sport somewhere else. You're not gonna take up a musical instrument if you can't play it anywhere. So, you know, we're working, and we're gonna take this year, you know, hopefully we'll have it in place by the fall, and we can start developing revenue streams for next year and make this all self-funded.
Do you know what the total number for, I guess, let's go 12, 13, was for all student activity revenue, which would be all the money that was generated by going to music show?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I asked the AD this morning, actually, roughly how much do you bring in on gate receipts?
That's just, he's only,
Said about 25,000.
that's just for sports though, right? He doesn't.
Yes.
But
Oh, I'm
about
sorry.
the music program, you know, like you have concerts, things
Yes.
like that, they all generate revenue.
Yep, yeah, we have student activity accounts for that, so
Who-
they don't they fundraise.
They fundraise.
Well, if I go
It's all
see a
fundraising.
play at the high school, I just walk in, they don't have a ticket.
No, you pay to go in.
What?
You pay to go in.
Right, so what do they generate for revenue?
I can get all those for you. I don't have them off the top of my head.
Sure.
If I may, because that's a fair analysis to say, much of the way you've done with the sports, what are the stipends and costs associated with those other programs? With the revenue? And I was watching Mr. Campbell shake his head, I know from the concepts of the music programs here is not separate from their fundraising, which they use directly for their uniforms.
Right, they actually aren't in any way self-funded. They fundraise for transportation to go to festivals and things like that. The instrumental music programs, performing groups.
And my goal in asking for that is, just as the chairman has indicated, we would like to find a way to take this off the Board of Ed's plate. It's, you know, there's got to be a model out there somewhere that we can put into place here.
I've started some research into it, so I have collected information. So when you do have that meeting, I can certainly participate as well and bring some of that information.
We'll send you the
Thank you.
One more
I'll
question.
reply.
Yes.
When we show our breakdown of revenue funds, I should know this on the board so long, where is student activity revenue?
Are you looking at the budget book?
Yeah, I'm looking at page 8.
It's not. Student activities does not pass through our GB, our general fund account. That money is deposited into the bank, kept by each individual school. Our revenue that's in the the budget book is everything that is, goes directly to the city as revenue, such as our co-pays for our employee premiums, all of our grants, our ECS funding, excess cost funding, that's our revenue into the city to help pay for our $70 million budget.
So when we look at the sports, when we look at all our student activities, sports, music, whatever, and we show expenditures, obviously, to run all of those, and they're part of our cost to run the school district, we won't show whatever whatever revenue is generated in our budget, that
Our
offset.
student activity money is a separate.
What?
The student activity money includes PTOs, chess club, key club, it
Right.
includes everything.
Right.
So it's not, you can't just take that one lump and put it in there because it doesn't apply. Currently, the gate receipts for drama and the gate receipts for sporting events are used to buy supplies.
Which
They use
we
them on their
budget
own.
for, though.
Not all of them. Like, we don't budget.
What's that?
You don't budget very much for drama or something.
Right, if you take drama, you see, you brought up the play.
Yeah.
They have to buy wood, paint, they have to get costumes, they rent some, they make some. They have a fund where they collect gate receipts to buy those materials to put the production on.
Right.
So that's how, that's not revenue to us, they kind of self-fund themselves, they move along. In the athletic world, they take the gate receipts and they will buy things, a pitching machine or something that is not in the budget,
Okay.
but if they find they have money and there's a need, at the end of the year, they purchase something to better the school and the athletic program, but it's not a revenue for the school.
And it doesn't come through the Board of Ed either, as far as something that we,
It currently does not.
yeah?
There's over 56.
There's over 56 different activity accounts.
And that, all that money is where? In whose bank account, or is it?
They all have their own bank accounts, all run through our activity funds, they have their own debit cards, it's the whole thing we put together. It was quick, it only took, what, 2 years? We flew right through that.
Missed those meetings.
So,
We do see those at budget, student
Yes.
activities
Yeah,
quarterly.
quarterly.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully quick, about the paper plan. I just want to make sure I'm understanding the chart, so I'm just going to pick football at the high school, just because it's at the top of the list. As I'm looking at this, I see $440 basically per athlete. I'm assuming that's what we're saying the athlete would pay to play, correct? Okay. As I'm looking further to the right, I see free, reduced. These are the children that qualify for free and reduced lunch.
Yes.
They are accounted for in that 440?
that 440 only covers the salaries for that sport. If you go to the next line item, the 84802 covers everything except salaries. And if you go to the next line, the total pay for an athlete to play, that's total cost per athlete for that sport is $1,288.93. Now, there is legislation that limits how much you can charge
That was
in
going
a
to be
pay
a
for
follow-up.
play. Yes.
Okay. Now, if you have a child that is qualified for free and reduced, how does that affect that number? Or is that accounted for in that 1288?
They're in the scholarship all the way to the right, total scholarship amount. That would be the amount that you cannot collect on a pay-for-play.
Because I guess my concern is, I don't want to say that I'm for or against pay for play, because honestly, I'm not sure. My concern is for the children that cannot afford to pay to play, making sure that they can still play.
You would have 35 students roughly who could pay for the 1,288. You have 28 students who could not.
So we're not technically taking an opportunity away from those students?
No.
Okay.
No.
What we did find out, we've gone through this exercise for the last 2 years, very extensively. And what we did find out is that with the new legislation that limits what you can charge, you can't even cover the administrative cost of having a pay-for-play system with what you can generate for revenue. It ends up being kind of a loser for you. Right. So there was a tremendous outcry the last couple of years to not institute a pay-for-play. Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell me what, I'm looking at your chart here on the cost of football, and it says total, the sport is $81,202. What was, you have the numbers for last 2 years? I don't, doesn't, is that a lot higher than it was a year or 2 years ago?
I can bring up last year's, hold on. Last year, it was 64,682.
So,
But then we go to our first handout was that
That's without JV.
we reduced that money. Wherever it is. We reduced 24,000 from football for JV and freshman football.
For this year.
Exactly.
So it was 87, would have been the total cost last year, would have been 87 this year, it's 81. It's actually less for some reason. 82,035.
The year before, the 12-13 year included JV football? Excluded JV football?
The 13-14 school year when we did this, for this year, we did it last year, it excluded JV football and freshman football, the money aspect of it, not the position. But there was also, we were dealing with 61 students versus 63, so that also is gonna make it, that's gonna make it higher.
So you're saying that the football program, the year before was approximately $81,000 to run, the entire program?
Last year, or the current year we're in right now is 82,035. And the year that we're budgeting is 81,202.48. It's basically the same. It's off by 1,000 or $100.
It's a tremendous amount of money to run that program. I always thought the number to run the football program, at least when I first got on the board, was something in the 60s. So in 4 or 5 years, it's increased that much. I mean, swimming, which I've always taken notice of, has stayed pretty consistent. It's basically the same number that I remember 6 years ago. But I never thought, I thought football, even 3 or 4 years ago, was around the 60s.
Well, you're looking at,
I mean, I think what the issue was in the past, we kind of had a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit at the high school, and we've asked that everything be consolidated into one sheet so we can look at the total cost of the programs.
Well, no, I'm just talking about the Torrington High School. I mean, this is the number for the football program at the high school, which is 81,000.
Right, but you used to have stipends in a different location, other items in another location. So when you looked at the cost of the program, it didn't necessarily include the stipends and the other costs associated with the program.
Coaches' stipends used to be under salaries.
Under salaries, right?
And so what you saw was insurance, equipment, materials, repairs. Now, we're putting all of it in one spot, so it's reflecting the stipends, the equipment, the materials. So you would see an easy $20,000 increase just for the stipends, I would imagine.
Well, why wouldn't that be the same with swimming and diving?
The majority of the swimming and diving is the rent of the YMCA. That's the driving cost of them. And that's always been listed on this. So you might have gone up, you have a coach, you probably went up a couple $1,000. Which we actually reduced the pool rental by $5,000 last year, so it's kind of a wash. This just gives us a clearer way to look at it than before. It just wasn't a total dollar picture. Yeah.
You look at the one that we didn't cut.
We have 10 minutes left. We can take a motion to extend and go around the table and get everyone's opinions, any additional information, suggested cuts or whatever, or we can go home and schedule another meeting for April 9th.
In favor of scheduling for April 9th.
Favor of what? Who's in favor of scheduling another meeting for April 9th?
We need to absorb all this.
Yeah.
Go back to the books.
Can we get a 15 or 20-minute extension and at least get people's input so that administration has direction for next week's meeting? Questions, anything that they want, or do you want to just? We would need a motion to extend, or we don't get a motion to extend, it just expired. What's that?
Second.
Who made the
You
motion?
made,
Oh, I didn't hear it.
Chris.
How long did you extend it for?
Sometimes we may.
Would you give us 10 minutes?
Yeah, I think that's what I said.
Is it? All right. Ellen seconded that 10-minute. All those in favor of the 10-minute extension? All those opposed? John's opposed?
You know,
You can vote either way. Where do you want to?
you may not want to hear this, but we can't continue to function this way. I'm sitting here tonight, and I don't mean this personally, but we're listening to one person talk, and we're not moving on, and we just can't continue. I'm going to suggest that at some point the board decide to put a time limit on what's ever on the agenda. And then at the end of that time limit, we might suggest to extend the time limit for that piece of the agenda. But it's just, I mean, we've been here 3 hours.
Yep. That is something that's been discussed. It's got to come out.
But let's, as a board, later on, after budget, whatever,
Yep.
tackle this and get it over with.
It's got to come out of policy. Sorry.
No, you don't.
Ellen thought I liked her when I appointed her to that.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, we'll start at this end of the table. Eleanor? What's that?
No, we're not voting, we're just.
No, we're getting suggestions or information or questions, and everybody has 2 minutes. Not even. You have a minute and 30 seconds.
I'll waive mine, John can take my minute 30.
Oh, the good woman from Torrington has passed a minute down.
We don't need much time, but weren't we supposed to get a report about the absences for the walkers?
We do.
Yeah, we do, that was,
It's here.
No.
Do you want it?
Well, we really don't want you to take it back home. Do you have it in the pass out form?
I have it in, from the email.
Yeah.
When they, we get an email.
Oh, you want an email? Or I can email it tomorrow. I mean,
You have it, right? You have it, right? Can you email it to them tomorrow? That's what they're
Mr.
asking.
Kiska, do you have anything else to?
No, that was all.
All right.
Huh?
Mr. Hinman.
I am all set.
Good.
She just did.
Okay.
Can we get the list of proposed cuts, 3 to 0, so that we can review them?
say that one more time, I'm sorry.
Do we have a list prepared of
Oh,
new recommendation
yeah.
cuts? so that we-
Yes.
Sorry, I forgot this
Well,
part.
he's
This
going-
would have been a
do you
really
have
long
enough?
one.
He's going to email it to all the board tomorrow.
see what I-
Okay, what's going around, the last thing that's going around is recommendations on different percent decreases or increases, however you want to talk, however you want to look at it, from the superintendent's proposed budget.
And then email you by Friday, if we need additional information on it, is that enough time for next Wednesday?
Yep.
Next Wednesday,
Right.
No, just any questions for Wednesday? All right. Ellen?
Yes, on the, handout number 7, you gave us for the itinerant teachers and staff for the patient various accounts. I don't see grants on there. I'm gonna bring down the grants also.
I thought you wanted who was paid grant versus GB versus something else, and all those are on there. If you want all grants, I have that also,
That's just certified staff.
and non-certified.
That's a
It's
list
any-
of people paid in multiple positions in the budget.
Right, exactly.
So where's,
It depends if they're paid in multiple positions.
oh, even start as a grant, no, ed improvement is.
Right,
Yes,
right.
yes.
So anything that's not GB is a grant.
Exactly.
And if the position is 100% grant funded, it wouldn't
It's not
show
It's
up
not on there,
because it's not
but I can
split.
get you that if you want that too.
That's.
Yes, please. And the positions that were paid by grants, and this year paid by grant, next year will be part of the general budget because the grants.
Yeah, I'm still in the workings of, I just don't have enough time.
Okay.
But yeah, that is on my radar to do.
We haven't heard about those many grants
Right, I actually did it the past few years of,
Yeah.
Chris?
Can we get a list of the reductions if we don't backfill, so all, what attrition would look like for, now that we have the superintendent's proposed cuts, to just have a list of what positions we can not fill?
yeah, I didn't understand that last week and I still don't.
Okay, so we have
Sorry.
People
X
who
number of
retired.
people retiring at the elementary school level.
Okay.
We have this proposal for all-day K.
Yep,
So say net impact that we could possibly cut through attrition,
Okay.
or savings through
Okay.
attrition would be this. And administrators, there, for example, there's none, because you need to backfill them.
exactly, okay.
I just think that's helpful when we're going to say if staff or, and for all our bargaining units.
Yep.
Carl?
I have no wish to prolong this any further.
Paul?
Said something. I just want to thank Danielle. I don't know how you do it, but a lot of this stuff was requested Monday, and you've got it on Wednesday, so just thank you. I have no requests.
Andrew?
Is there any chance that we can get a projection of what the grand list will be for increase or decrease?
Yes.
And the other question I have is, now that you came up with the idea to retire these, give these older teachers incentive for retiring, and they'll be replaced by younger people, what will be the health insurance savings to the district by having younger staff whose costs should be significantly less?
We bill insurance based on cost. You know, we don't have a,
We do it by actual expenditure, right?
yes,
Okay.
okay.
So
Can you tell me the health of the people
more
that we're
likely,
gonna
a
hire?
25-year-old, 10, 25-year-olds should have significantly less actual cost,
Okay.
health cost, than 10, 60-year-olds.
Okay.
But their children may not.
Right,
They have
how do you
kids?
quantify that? It's impossible.
Yeah.
Would you like to know the insurance cost of the people that are retiring, and then you can make the assumption of what the new cost will be? Because I don't know how to do that. I can make a guess, but it's
All I
not
know
accurate.
is that a 25-year-old who goes out to buy a health insurance plan is going to pay significantly less than a 60-year-old who's going to go out and buy a family plan.
Self-insured.
No?
We're self-insured. We're not
Well,
private.
it's always the concept, is it better to be self-insured versus buying a plan?
Is there anything else you would like?
We old people don't like that.
Andrew?
Yeah.
No, is there anything else, Kelsey? If anybody has any additional questions, Fiona's statement or request of administration was if we can get any additional information into Danielle by Friday, she can have the information to us for the meeting for next Wednesday. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? All right.
It's early.